Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the FOREVERNESS Podcast. We are thrilled to have with us today Jamie Metzl. Jamie has a super powerful background, powerful CV, so to speak. He has a Juris Doctor in Harvard Law School, PhD in Asian History at the University of Oxford. He's been an advisor for the World Health Organization. He's been a partner in global private equity firms. And he's an author on non-fiction and fiction. And some people will call him a futurologist in topics like technology or healthcare. He also funded Share World, the foundation One World Share, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie.
One shared world.
One Share World,
Yep.
correct, One Share World. And he's been recently on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, so no pressure for us at all.
You guys told me that you have more listeners than Joe Rogan, so I was excited to learn more.
Yeah, will be the case. Will be the case someday. So thank you very much, Jamie, for being with us today. It's an honor to come with you. Would you like to share with us a little bit of one word with us?
Sure. Just really thrilled to be here with all of you. I mean, the big question for all of us, all humans, is can we manage this fundamental transformation in the world around us? That our history, people think that humans have always been humans, and technologies have come and gone. Our experience as humans has been radically transformed by technology, and whether it was controlling fire 1,000,000 years ago, or agriculture 12,000 years ago, or industrialization, or computerization. So it's not crazy to think that technology can drive fundamental transformations in how or whether we humans live. But it's hard for many people to recognize that is our history. And the reason why we have 8 billion humans has everything to do with technology. So just numerically, most of the people listening to this podcast are here because of technology. Now we're entering this phase of rapid technological transformation. And the essence of my work is inviting everybody into this conversation about how do we use these transformational technologies wisely.
Mm-hmm. So it also mentions to tackle like global challenges, not like climate change or
Yep.
spread diseases. I don't know if you would like to share with us how you.
Well, climate change. Let's start with climate change. Climate change is a blessing curse. In the sense, the reason that we have climate change is because of industrialization. The reason why humans ended slavery which existed pretty much in every civilization, almost every civilization around the world, is we developed machines that could do labor instead of humans. And then our machines got more and more effective. And that's why certainly the three of us on this podcast, and probably most of the people listening, are not hunters, gatherers, or farmers. This has unleashed us to do all of these wonderful things that we do. And that is a blessing. And there's a curse because as industrialization has played out, it turns out there are these indirect impacts, which are these greenhouse gases that are spewing into the atmosphere. And so now with climate change, we have to solve a problem that has been created by our response to a previous problem. And that basically is the way it is with everything. We're entering into this new era where we have all these new kinds of challenges. You mentioned pandemics. So pandemics, regardless of how the COVID-19 pandemic began, and as you may know, I'm a big believer the most likely origin is from a lab accident in Wuhan. But regardless, there can be no doubt that the forces of globalization are facilitating the spread of pandemic pathogens. And whether it's the change of our diets and rapid expansions of industrial animal farms, whether it's humans traveling around, whether it's cutting down forests, and these same technologies that at least increase the odds of a modified virus doing a lot of harm to humans are the same technologies that are helping us cure previously uncurable cancers and innovate in treatments. And the easy answer, the easy wrong answer for people is specific technologies are inherently good or inherently bad. We in the United States, there's this very strong anti-AI feeling, which is contrast with Asia, where there's a lot more support for AI. And in the sense, though, AI is going to kill us, and AI it doesn't come with a built-in value system. No technology comes with its built-in value system.
In light of this, that you mentioned something really interesting to me. Like you said that, for example, here in the Western world, there's like this sense of fear for AI for some people, not for everyone, of course. Whereas in Asia, this is completely different. Like they are like more engaged or more welcoming to this technology.
Right.
Why do you think we have this difference? Given that you are also an expert on Asian history, I don't know.
I think it's cultural norms and it's historic moments. I mean, there was a time in the United States, certainly in the 1940s and the 1950s, where there was this big belief that technology was going to build this wonderful world. And then certainly over the 1960s and 70s, and there were very real reasons. People saw abuses of technology like the Agent Orange in Vietnam and thalidomide and all sorts of things. And so, certainly in America, we've lost our sense of the endless frontier. We've lost our sense of optimism. We've lost our sense of believing that technologies, as complicated as they are, can be part of a bigger social program of making things better. And just these younger, in many cases, populations in places like Asia and like Africa, still have that hope. And they've seen over the course of their lives how transformative these technologies have been of bringing people into the information flow world. So it's just these things, they have patterns. And on top of that, we're divided by social media, which is pushing people toward the extremes. And so the transhumanist people who are the AI optimists, they get a big voice, and the doomers, they get a big voice. And the people like me who are somewhere in the middle, who are saying there's a potential wonderful future, and there's a potential scary future. And the name of the game for us is to try to find the right balance where we can optimize benefits and minimize harms. If you say sensible things, certainly in the social media world, everybody yawns. If you stake out some kind of extreme position and start attacking your perceived adversaries, that's how people gain followings. And you see that with somebody like Greta Thunberg, who started out as a reasonable kid with a sense of mission about climate change. And now she's evolved or been pushed by the social media algorithm into being this kind of raving lunatic calling to globalize the intifada and wanting to get arrested so there can be a photograph of her getting dragged by the police that can feed the social media beast. And so if people like Greta Thunberg can be turned into social media monsters, there is so much pressure on everybody, all of us, people on the right, people on the left, to just pull toward these extremes, when the right answer for us as humans living in interconnected communities, and whether that's within our countries or internationally or globally, is to say, how can we come together to solve problems? That's why these kinds of conversations are so important. And that's why I do believe that all technologies requires governance. No technology can govern itself. There's no such thing as an inherent technology of liberation. People used to say that about the internet. The internet's a technology of liberation. All you have to do is get out of the way, and the internet is going to free the world. That was a very popular view, certainly in the 90s. And now we see that it was totally wrong. These technologies can be used for better or for worse, and it's all of our jobs to try to tilt the scales toward better.
Thank you for this insight. In this, following also your answer, in these two, well, there are two views, as you said, no, the two extreme views, or heaven thanks to technology, or hell thanks
Right.
to technology. Of course, you said already that you are not an extremist in these positions, but what would you say are like the biggest dreams we can have thanks to the advance of technology, specifically AI?
Yeah.
And now we're talking about it, and what are the biggest reasons of fear, or which things we could fear the most, or would be the most scary things?
Yeah. So I think a lot about this, as you know, Pablo, my new book, Superconvergence, is all about this. And that's why, for me, the story isn't just AI. It's these super converging technologies that are all embedded in each other and all inspire each other. For example, you need the agricultural revolution to get the civilizational revolution, to get writing, and you need writing to have computer code. You need computer code to have computers. You need computers to have machine learning to have AI. And now with AI, we're able to interrogate evolved living systems to begin to understand how they function. And that is what is allowing us to develop deeper insights that are being applied in places like healthcare, like agriculture, industrial materials, data storage, all of these other areas. So we can easily imagine a world where we have unlimited energy, where we have much greater capacities to prevent and cure diseases, where we can grow natural resources in ways that can ensure that everybody in the world has access to the materials they need, but without having to be so rapacious in our extraction. We can have forms of agriculture that have fewer inputs of land and energy and fertilizer, but have greater productivity. So all of these things are certainly possible, and it's very exciting. And for the exact same reasons that these wonderful stories are possible, we can have these intersecting technologies that can pit people together using, pit people against each other using these algorithms, which we're already seeing. I mean, that social media is promoting engagement is one of the things. That's how Donald Trump got elected. That's why so many societies are being torn apart, is that the social media algorithms are pushing us toward being our worst by rewarding engagement. As I mentioned before, I believe the COVID-19 pandemic most likely stems from a research-related incident in Wuhan. But I think what happened is they were trying to develop a pan-coronavirus vaccine, and something went wrong. So they were, in this case, applying these technologies, maybe even for a benign or positive reasons, and there was an accident. So I think, and in Superconvergence, I talk about a lot of these things, and everything is the double-sided coin. Gene drives, which I think can and ultimately should be used to protect people from malaria. We still have over 500,000 people dying, up to 1 million people dying every year from malaria. So we can we can eradicate malaria, but with a tool that, if we're not careful, could also crash complex ecosystems that we don't fully understand. And so I think it's actually really important to articulate both the positive story and the negative story, and to recognize that neither is inevitable, but everyone has an important role to play in trying to weigh the scale in the favor of the more positive outcomes.
Okay, Jamie, may I just throw in something?
Yes, please.
So my view is that technology now is in the hands of very few people, and those very few people are actually using technology for their own benefit, and because that's what humans do. I'm no judgment here, but the hard reality is from those two scenarios you're describing. Of course, the one is the nice to have. That's exactly the same that the socialist revolution was. We could have a world where everyone has food, and now the technological revolution, we could have a world where everyone has food. But I see personally that the actual drive for that requires a very strong social and political change, whereas the way to damnation is paved with millions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
So don't you see a dystopian future slightly more likely than...
It's a leading question, but I understand.
It is. Yeah. I am not interviewing you.
No. But I understand completely, and I sympathize with it. And I'll just use one example, and then extrapolate from that in support of the underlying claim in your question. And that is, Elon Musk, originally, he was this great figure who was going to build us cars that were more environmentally friendly. He was going to help people in poorer parts of the world gain access to the internet to help them enter into the information revolution. And because of that, and because of his ability to manipulate positively his own image, he inflated the value of the equity value of his existing companies. I mean, he was a great impresario, and that translated into wealth. Then with that wealth, he purchased Twitter at a multiple of its market value. And the reason why he did it is because the market value had nothing to do with the value to him. And then he manipulated the algorithm on Twitter to promote his own voice more than every other person on earth.
So is Gattaca, the movie, have you seen Gattaca?
Yes.
Is Gattaca going to become a reality?
Well, I mean, certainly we are going to have, and we already have, assisted reproduction technologies that give people more choice. And so, as in the film, that was talking about highly genetic optimization, and I can't remember the name of the actor, but who's the guy who's not genetically modified?
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. So Ethan Hawke is a natural, and then his younger brother is one who's genetically optimized. And in the story, Ethan Hawke, because he has so much human persistence, he's able to trick his way into this space program, and that's his dream. So it is my view that we will have genetic optimization that will either be through embryo selection, which already exists, or it will be through the genome editing of embryos, which already exists on a very small scale, but will almost certainly increase over decades and centuries. And my big critique of that movie, is we don't want Ethan Hawke on this space mission, because the people who were going on that space mission were people whose biology was optimized for living in space. By sneaking on to that space mission in the movie, Ethan Hawke was putting all of those people's lives at risk. And so I do think that we're going to be able to see things about ourselves that right now we don't see. So another one is Eero Montejana, I'm mispronouncing his last name, was this Finnish Olympic superstar in cross-country skiing. And he was incredible. He kept, year after year, he would win the gold medal. And it was only after he died that somebody sequenced the genomes of his relatives, and they had a rare genetic mutation, making the red blood cells able to carry more oxygen. And that's why he won. When what's his face, Lance Armstrong, got busted for doping, Lance Armstrong, he started with a body like everybody else, and he was trying to hack his own body to be exactly like Eros. He was trying to do synthetically what Eros was doing naturally. Because I guarantee you that most people who win Olympic gold medals are irregular humans in one way or another. That's why they're winning. So this idea that there's this one thing that's natural and one thing that's unnatural, and there's such a clear line between them, I think that's going to become much blurrier in the future, because right now it's largely a fiction. We don't lead natural lives like our ancestors did 2 million years ago. We live lives mediated by technology, and that technology has a ton to say about human reproduction now, and will have more to say about it in the future.
But let's, I'm going to jump, Derek, into a topic of one of our favorite topics, which is the novel FOREVERNESS that brought us all together, right? One of the essence of the novel is that genetic manipulation, pre or post birth, is going to separate individuals into different groups, right? So what I see about Gattaca, I haven't seen the film, but from what I gather from what you guys are talking, is that actually you're making a statement. We want humans to have equal rights independent of their genetic code. And
well, I was making the opposite point. What I was saying.
I know, but Gattaca is, that's why you don't like the movie.
Yeah,
because
exactly,
it's making, is what you're critiquing the film is that they're giving equality to humans. So before we get to the extreme position of Gattaca or the extreme position of FOREVERNESS, where there is this split.
Yeah,
you could do a DNA test. So at some point in the novel, they have testers to know if you are immortal or mortal.
Yeah, and
you're that's not only because it's like it gets that bad, right? So before you get that bad, don't you fear that in society, not so far away, but as soon as genetic manipulation starts, we're gonna stratify humans in completely? And I hope this is not a leading question. It's like, don't you think that the possibility becomes available, that precise judgment call that you've made would lead to a hard stratification of society that will go beyond racism?
It easily could. I mean, that's the Eloy and the Morlocks. I mean, people have been thinking about this for a long time, and so it easily could. But what I say this over and over, if we don't want that future, we should look at our present. Because in our present world today, we already have the world that you just described, PJ. We already have a world where those of us on this interview, we have these charmed lives. And there are people who live not far from all of us, and from, frankly, everybody who's listening to this podcast, who have very different sets of possibilities, whether it's education or health. I'm in New York City. I can get on the subway right near my house, the 4-5 express line, and literally in 10 minutes, I can be in a zip code that has a 20-year lesser average lifespan than in my zip code. So that's 20 years in 10 minutes. You look at people in a place called Central African Republic who are deeply malnourished as a result of their civil war. So the kids who are born from malnourished mothers already have decreased brain function as a result of that stratification. So humans are stratifiers. It's how we do it. And so I definitely think that what you're saying is a deep concern, and I think we should avoid it. And one of the smartest investments to avoid it is to invest in realizing those same values now. Because if we're saying, I'm perfectly comfortable with these radical divisions, I mean, America is still the wealthiest country in the world, to have all of these people with no health care and terrible education, I mean, it should be unacceptable. And then at every point in the evolution of these processes, we can say what is or isn't acceptable. And Estonia has its societal values woven into national decisions, in my view, more, or at least better than we do here in the United States.
Talking about evolution, technology, genetics, like how do you see? I mean, longevity is actually extended longevity is actually is currently an industry. It's an actual industry.
It is huge,
and it is huge.
Yeah.
There are long, big investments in this industry. I mean, we know that the richest people in the world are behind this. So, extended extreme longevity, immortality in particular, we will not see that. But do you think that could happen in the future?
I certainly believe in immortality. That's why I write books. That's why I do interviews. Do I think there's a human alive now or for the next 1,000 years who is going to live forever in this human form? I do not. And while I certainly believe that there's a lot of really exciting basic science in the field of healthy human aging and extension of health span and even lifespan, by far the best things that people can do to increase their odds of having a healthy life are all free. It's exercising every day, it's eating well, it's sleeping, it's having a supportive community. All of those things are much more, and getting adequate healthcare. And all these hacks that people are talking about, these stem cell transplantations, or taking the metformin or rapamycin or the autophagus agents or senolytics or the GLP-1s.
Or even the genetic therapy for the
gene therapies, none of them are proven to extend lifespan or health span. There's some very exciting animal models with roundworms and mice, and the rapamycin, if it has extended the lives of lab animals by up to 25%. Roundworms have had 10x increases in lifespan. So do I think someday it may be possible? But I absolutely think that all of these longevity, quote unquote, science industries are massively overhyped. Now we can make sure that everyone, particularly the most vulnerable people in our communities and around the world, have the same basic privileges that we have. So they have adequate food and adequate shelter and adequate education and all of those kinds of things. So I think in my mind, there's a fake industry, which is the exact same. All the people with these clinics in Panama and Kazakhstan and whatever, it's the exact same industry as the people who were giving people ground monkey testicle injections in the early 1900s, because everybody wants this stuff. And so if you say you've got something, people are going to line up for it. I know this is a family podcast, so
it's all right.
I'll just use the Elon Musk is a POS, and the word peace, P is for peace, O is of, and you can figure out what the is. What a monster, what a horrible person. You have all of that privilege, and that's what you're doing with your time. You're running around with a chainsaw saying we're eradicating USAID without even knowing what USAID does, without even knowing who the people are in the poorest countries in the world who are relying on USAID to survive. And not only that, their survival is in our interest because it's helping contain diseases that could easily spread to us. So if I had all of the money in the world, I would do exactly what I explained to you. I wouldn't do a thing for myself other than to say, all right, with all the money in the world, he should repent and he should allocate the entirety of all of his wealth to helping the world's most vulnerable people. That's why I called him a POS. He has all of this wealth. And my feeling is, if Elon Musk was able to get the whole world to this level where everybody had health, access to adequate food, healthcare, medical treatment, all of these things, they said, well, now what can I do next? And if he thought, I want to dedicate 100 more years to philanthropy, and therefore I need to live 100 more years so I can do more for philanthropy, I'd say, well, that's a great idea. If he wants to to live longer so he can abuse people more with these horrible values. Yuck. That's the essential point. It's not how long we're here. It's what are we doing with the time that we have? And we only have so much energy to allocate towards specific things. And so for sure, I want to live a long and healthy life. I eat a healthy diet. I exercise every day. I try to stay balanced. And if somebody said, you can take a metformin, let's say, which is a cheap pill and it doesn't harm society, I can just take that and I can live healthier longer, I'll take it all the time. And so by all means, but if somebody is saying, well, you need to do some kind of radical thing, and frankly, if the science just isn't there, and so do I think that within the next 50 years, 100 years, somebody's going to be able to get a single gene therapy that's going to give them 20, 30 years of extra healthy living? I doubt that is the case. Okay. Just because,
Jamie,
yeah.
Have you heard of telomerators?
Yes.
Telomerators, not telomeres.
What are telomeres? No.
Telomerators are nanorobots
that
actually extend the length of telomeres across the length, so the body. So these nanorobots, of course, do not exist.
Yeah.
Telomerators.
Well, I just read Ray Kurzweil's new book with his. So, but let me say that even telomeres, it in a way, it makes the point, because there used to be the story of the telomeres.
Wait, because we're running short of time, and we've got this quintessential question that we have asked. We have to need to ask you. So the thing is, telomerators come in a pill. You take the pill, and they immediately start multiplying because they are viral structures, and they start fixing your telomeres, and then you never age anymore. Okay, and that is now. The FOREVERNESS longevity clinic is offering you the longevity treatment.
If somebody said you can take a pill and you can have a healthy life forever, I would take that pill in a second. I'd give it to all my friends. I'd give it to everybody, for sure. Like, I love life. I want more of it. I want that for everybody who wants it, not to force it on anybody. So I'm not against that, but I just feel like we should. Part of living a moral, ethical life is understanding over time who you are and what you stand for, and aligning your life's energies towards realizing your life's aspirations and goals. So I want to live as long and healthy life as possible. But if I had Elon Musk money, I would not invest
you do something else
myself.
Now, we've got our pill, and you said, I'll give it to all my friends. I'll give it to my family that live longer.
Yeah.
Now we're good with superpopulation. So 1 billion people on Earth becoming immortals. What's the next step?
So that I'm really not worried about it, because the kinds of people, educated people who are just living these lives, the problem is that we are not reproducing. It's not that. And so do I think that there's anybody who's going to live in this biological form to live to be 200 in the next 100 years? I think it's very unlikely. But if people live longer, if we had older people who were living healthier longer, that would be wonderful. I would love it, because we invest so much in older people. That's why I love older people so much. I have so many older friends. We invest, and what a waste when somebody who has a whole life of wisdom gets dementia or Alzheimer's or dies. That's a huge investment by humanity in these people. So if we could get 10 more years of healthy living from every old person in the world, that would be awesome. 20 years would be even better. 50 years would be even better. The issue with our planet is not that we don't have the resources. It's what you said before, PJ. It's about how we think about the distribution of those resources. We have enough on this planet to support a whole lot of people, but we need to think about how do we integrate all of these various goals.
But wouldn't it be the case that if people live 50 years longer, those people that are not having kids nowadays, they will end up having them because they have more time to make more money or build the life that they want to build before they have a family?
Yeah, well, I think certainly.
And therefore,
Yeah.
go to the overpopulation.
I'm not worried about overpopulation, just because all of the statistics are that there's a danger of underpopulation as you look at one society after another. As they become wealthier, people stop having kids. If you're living longer, you think, oh, I better have something, or else I'm going to have like 200 years of, speaking to the same friends every day. But every one of these people who are malnourished or living in extreme poverty without adequate education, if they had those things, who knows what brilliant inventions they might come up with, what wonderful poems and novels they would write. So inequality is the thing. And then diversity is another thing, where in the name of these technologies, now that we have these great capacities, if we make decisions that may even seem to make sense to us and we limit the diversity of our species, that really would worry me, because diversity is the biggest investment that we can make in survivability.
So we could say it's superdivergence.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are a bit more of the time, but it's been lovely, particularly the end of these questions. I think it's really, really great, really bright. I don't know, BJ, if you have some more questions you would like to.
No, I think we got to discuss. We wanted to pick Jamie's brain on exactly the topics that we discuss in this podcast.
Yeah.
And the topics that are, of course, in a fictional way discussed in the novel, but all the questions are there, of course. Inequality, they are, segregation, all the questions are part of FOREVERNESS. And it's great. And this is what we want, because these are real problems that are just waiting for us. So from my side, I have to just, Jamie, it was lovely. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Just a pleasure.
All right, you guys are great.